Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast. Ann and I are so excited to be here today. And you may notice we are missing a very important person on our team. Lori is having some tech gremlins, and so we are missing her today. But she will be back, guaranteed. So we have an exciting show today to talk about. And we're going to talk about marshmallows. Ha! How's that for a fun opening?
When was the last time a podcast focused on marshmallows?
Exactly. Do you want to share a little bit about why we're going to talk about marshmallows?
So it is so important to learn to be patient and to wait for what you want. If you always have instantaneous gratification, it actually affects how you do things and how you function in your job. And now this experiment has been debunked, but the basics of it is still good. In 1970, Stanford University did an experiment with children, and they sat them in a room and sat one marshmallow in front of them. And then they left the room, but they told them, if you wait until we come back, we'll give you another marshmallow. So these young kids were sitting there and they watched behind, that super secret glass, watched who ate it and who would wait. And so it was 15 minutes they had to wait. When they came back, the kids who waited got a second marshmallow or a pretzel stick. They got something in addition to what they already had. And they followed some of those kids throughout their lives and found they generally just did better in life because they could delay gratification. So if we can take that, whether it's been debunked now or not, it's still the basis of the idea, I think, still is solid. Mm-hmm. If we can take that into how many times do we give up getting something better because we want what we want right now?
That I love how you said that. And it is, especially with everything being at our fingertips today, I think it adds an added layer of challenge, because literally, if we want, let's say, go shopping, we want a new outfit. We no longer have to get dressed, drive to the store, shop around, perhaps try some things on. We can have it delivered the very next day. And if we don't like it, we send it back. I mean, so we can get things and we don't even have to leave our house, and we can do it at 3:00 in the morning when we can't sleep. And, but back when you and I were growing up, stores weren't open 24 hours a day. And a lot of times they were closed on Sunday. And, so we didn't have a choice but to delay gratification. Or if you're like me, I live in a rural area. I had to drive an hour in any direction just to get to a mall. And so, but things are much, much different, even when it comes, just everything is at our fingertips. So it makes it, I don't know, audience, we would love to hear, do you find that it's harder to delay gratification now, especially with the technology and everything? Heck, drones are delivering things to us in real time. And, and I believe this. I don't know this. I don't have a crystal ball, but I believe it's only going to get faster with instant gratification. It's like you order something and a drone can have it at your house in 20 minutes,
The one place I've really noticed it, and I have to be careful with myself, is my need to know. So I joke all the time that, remember when we were kids and you just didn't know stuff? You didn't know the answer to everything. Well, now we can Google it. But it has had a negative effect on me. And I don't know if I'm the only one. I'd like to hear from somebody else. The negative effect that now I have to know the answer because I know I can Google it and I know I will get an answer, whether it's the correct one or not, can sometimes be up for debate. But that instantaneous gratification, no, I need to know this. Who sang that song? What was the name of that movie? Who was that actor that did that, funny quote or whatever? So it can be silly stuff, but dang it, I need to know. and figure it out right then. And I feel like that affects how well I handle some things. And that's a silly example, but I'm like, I have to have the answer until I can move on.
Yeah. Well, and I see, like, thinking about questions that we have, if we're always going to the internet or our phones or any device that we can speak into to get a response, we miss out on having those conversations with other people, to get other people's perspectives, and their thoughts and opinions on something that it just awards us not only deeper connection with that person, but it's like, oh, I never thought about it like that before, or just different kinds of things. Or even if we agree to disagree, which is okay to do, listeners.
Yes.
And you can still love each other and be great friends and all the things. It's all good.
Please have the conversation and please agree to disagree, but talk.
Yes. But yeah, so there are definitely some things that, yeah, we just we don't wait for. We get impatient and things. And so I was sharing with Anne that I was diagnosed a couple years ago with a binge eating disorder. And I've always, as far as I can remember, I've always struggled with food. But it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I realized exactly what I was doing. And I was using food to get those dopamine hits in my brain to make me feel good, because I was avoiding something that was unpleasant, whether it was a feeling or, a conversation or whatever it was I was avoiding. I learned at a young age that I feel good if I have something in my mouth. Okay, that.
Moving on.
We'll just stick with food.
Moving on.
But and so and then the more that I learned, I'm a retired social worker, so the more that I learned about dopamine hits and stuff like that, I still never connected that I had a binge eating disorder, and that the way that I was eating really was going after those dopamine hits. And it was that instant gratification. Super interesting. And I know, Anne, you have something similar but different.
Yeah, so when we were talking, I was like, well, you're going to have to explain that on the podcast, because I don't really understand that, like that need. And then it immediately occurred to me, I did the same thing, but not with food. I did it with exercise. So I had two brothers die within 2 months of each other in 2013, and I lost my ever-loving mind. Well, when the feelings would hit, I'd go jump on a piece of gym equipment, because I had a home gym. So I got down to 109 pounds. I'm 5'8". I weighed 109 pounds, like size extra small, clothes did not look good on me. But I thought I was doing well because I was exercising. But actually, I was doing the same thing. I was getting that dopamine hit. And I realized, unfortunately, years later, I mean, here now it's 2026. I've only said it out loud this morning. I really should have just sat in those feelings, felt what was going on, tried to figure out what was going on. But I ran to the gym equipment, and I would spend an hour on the Stairmaster working as hard as I could possibly work until those feelings went away. So I wasn't, the result of the fitness level I had was good, but the reason I was doing it was delaying dealing with those emotions I really needed to deal with.
Yeah. And audience, would love to know, like, what are some things that you go to? For some, it can be just, binging a show, one of your favorite shows online, or playing on your phone, or it could even be journaling. I mean, there's all kind. I mean, it's we can get a dopamine hit from lots and lots and lots of different things, and most of them are good. For me, I can get a dopamine hit just from going outside and just standing in the sun for a few minutes. So not everything is bad. So please don't hear us say that, but it's when, like for me, because I have a binge eating disorder, I would go to the extreme to where I was losing control. It was just, it was like, I have to do this because I was avoiding a feeling, a situation or something. And it was interesting because as a social worker, in my entire 28 years, every single client that I worked with, I talked with them about, you have to feel to heal. But I never was able to bring that back to me until a couple of years ago. And so it was just an interesting revelation that, oh my gosh, I wasn't even taking my own wisdom.
But like you said, until 2 years ago, it wasn't diagnosed. So you didn't maybe connect the dots. And going back to what you said, that not everything is bad. Me jumping down the Stairmaster, the act in and of itself wasn't bad. It was the motivation behind why I was doing it. That's where the negative connotations came in. Why you're eating is where the negativity comes in. The act itself may be fine. So to your point, yes, you can do a lot of things. It's the, why am I doing this? That needs to maybe be, some self-reflection.
Yeah, just, examine, it's like, am I avoiding something, or what am I trying to suppress or cover up? Or, do I need some instant gratification? So I go for, something that gives me a dopamine hit. And I mean, I have 4 college degrees, being a social worker for 28 years, and I couldn't connect the dots for myself. And I know this stuff, so I don't profess to say that it's always easy to have that self-reflection and go, oh yeah, you are doing that,
But it's so good that you finally got there and can openly talk about it, because a lot of people probably wouldn't be open about talking about binge eating because there's still, I think, a lot of shame to the things people do. And I'm to the point, I'm like, it is what it is. If my life can help somebody else live a better life, I will tell you all the stories you want to hear ad nauseum, probably.
Yeah.
But so we need people that are open and honest, because who knows, listener, if this was something you're like, oh my gosh, I needed this message today, like, please put a note in the comments and tell us, let us know that.
Yes. I mean, I knew about, like I said, I have 4 college degrees. I sat in that world for 28 years. And I knew about binge eating disorders, but it wasn't until I got the diagnosis that things just started making sense. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started learning, and now it's not always easy. I just came off of a period. I mean, listeners, if you've listened to this show for any length of time, my dad. I've talked about him a lot. And he just got out of the hospital yesterday after he was in for over a month. And there were many times during that period where I had lost control. And before I knew it, I ate literally an entire box of cookies in one sitting and didn't have any conscious recollection of doing it. It was so mindless because I was doing other things and the box was here and I'm working and doing stuff. And I would just reach over, and before I knew it, the whole box was gone. And I was like, wait a minute, when did I eat all those cookies? And I'm like, oh crap. But it was, every time I thought about, we almost lost my dad a couple of times during his stay in the hospital. And that was super scary and just super stressful and ugh. Anyhow, and it brings up some family dynamics where there's trauma involved, and I'm like, get a grip, Angie, and it's not lack of character or weak, like I actually had a guy tell me yesterday how powerful I was because I show my neck. I'm like, that's a whole other story. But, I say that to say, you're not weak if you're someone who, has a go-to that gives you that dopamine hit because you want that instant gratification. You're avoiding feeling to heal or whatever that happens to be. You're sitting in a period of waiting and it's hard. And so while you're waiting, it's like, well, I need some dopamine hits while I'm waiting. And it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you lack character. It doesn't mean that you're flawed. It doesn't mean that you're broken. We're human. And we find ways to do things that work for us, whether they're good or bad, and I hate putting them in those two different buckets because obviously we have to eat to live, right? Like that's, movement is always good, with Anne and her exercising. I mean, movement is always good for the body. Get that blood flowing, get that heart rate up, get that oxygen moving throughout your body. But it's like Anne said, what's the motivation behind it? Is there, like for me, it's to avoid something. And
it's typically feelings. It's something hard. It's something you need to do. We do it in business.
Yep.
We do whatever activity is more fun than the activity we need to do that's going to make us the money. So, yep. I mean, there's lots and lots of examples. Or right. We do so I'm a checklist person. I will put something on my checklist that I've already done just so I can check it off. Because that's that instant, yay, that's a win. I'm excited. I got something done. I'm like, I did it an hour ago and it wasn't on the checklist then, but hey, don't let details get in the way.
Yes. Yep. Well, and procrastination is another example of that. And listeners, how many of you procrastinate on doing something that is unpleasant? Perhaps it's your least favorite chore of cleaning around the house. And for me, I have to do my least favorite activity first. I have to just eat the frog. And I got my little eat the frog on my time blocker here. And, but for others, procrastination works for them. They're like, well, it's nothing like a deadline to keep me motivated and, that type of thing. But that's one of those, things that's like, I'd rather get the dopamine hit now of doing something that I enjoy versus, delaying that gratification. And I like to save my favorite activities to the end. And, so that I end on a high note. But that's what works for me. I don't know what happens to work for Anne or for the audience.
Nope, I love that. And just making every day, like, what was your win for the day? Whatever it is, something that made you feel good about yourself in that day, count it as a win and give yourself the credit. That's a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Because you're feeling good about yourself. So I love this topic though. So to kind of wrap everything up on patience and waiting and all of that, what's some one or two quick things that the audience can implement right now?
Yeah. So the one thing for sure is just do a quick little check. And it's like, okay, we'll just use procrastination as an example. It's like, why am I procrastinating on this? What is it about that particular, whatever it is that you're procrastinating on? And chances are that it's a feeling that's unpleasant or an activity that is unpleasant or you don't enjoy or, whatever. And it's like, why am I avoiding this right now when I can just rip the Band-Aid, get it over with, move on, and then it's done. So if you can, it's this, I mean, mindfulness is one of those terms. It's overused, and I get it, but it is so powerful when used strategically. And so, like for me and my binge eating disorder, this might relate. Some of you might relate to this. Like now, I can't really have like that box of cookies within my reach. Like I can't. So now it's more of a purposeful action. And while I'm going to get the cookie, because chocolate, cheese, and carbs are my three favorite food groups. And so I have to be mindful of every step that I take to get what it is that I am going to get, whatever that is. So it gives me the opportunity to make a different choice should I choose. I can still choose to have the cookie, but then I can also choose to pull just one from the box rather than bringing the whole box. And so just doing little strategic things like that that put you in a situation to be mindful can make a big, big difference. What about you, Ann?
I love that. And choice is like my absolute favorite word ever. I love choices. But and I just Googled his name real quick and I've already lost it. James Clear, I think, wrote Atomic Habits.
Atomic
And he
Habits.
says in there, when you're doing things, to actively, like if you're avoiding feeling whatever, give your brain the opportunity to acknowledge that you're avoiding it. That, and had I known this back, I don't know that I would have done it after my brothers died. I wasn't emotionally healthy enough, but I would like to think that I could have implemented it to say, I am going to get up and get on the Stairmaster because I don't want this feeling in the pit of my stomach. But calling myself out, the more you do that, the more opportunity you have to address the motivation and then change the behavior.
Yes.
And again, the behavior itself wasn't bad.
Right.
Why I was doing it was very harmful to me. And it took me getting over my brother's deaths. It took me years. Like it wasn't a 2 or 3 months. It was like 3 to 5 years to truly get to where I'm like, okay, I can deal with that gross feeling in the pit of my stomach now. And had I not avoided the feeling, maybe I would have gotten healthier much sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, we have feelings for a reason, and feelings let us know that whatever it is means something to us, whatever, and we feel a certain way about something because it means something to us. And to me, that's something to be grateful for. And it's like, like grieving the loss of the loved one. And it's like, yes, it hurts, and your heart breaks, and it's unpleasant, but it means that I loved them so much, and I got to have however much time in my life I got to spend with them. And it means so much that they're no longer here. And so just even, doing the reframe, and yeah, do you still cry? Do you still hurt? Does your heart still break and you have to do some mending? And, perhaps you need to talk with a therapist, talk with a friend, get some type of help, whatever that looks like. But it meant something to you. And I think that's something to be celebrated. If you have traumas in your life, the feelings that are associated with that is because you have self-worth and you value yourself. And whenever someone comes in and does, there's some trauma that's associated with that, and strips some of that away, or whatever the situation is, or you experience something or see something, and it totally changes, the way that you think or view the world. It's because how you were before meant something to you. And that's something to be celebrated. And I'm not saying it's easy. but I'm saying it's worth it.
I have dogs. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, got little pup. Well, they're not little puppies; they're big puppies. But she's got some fur babies. But anyhow, so yeah, so celebrate. Even though it's hard, just celebrate the fact that you have these feelings and you have the opportunity to learn and grow, strengthen that relationship with yourself, strengthen your relationship. Like for Ann and I, we're both Christians, and so we can strengthen our relationship with God whenever we're hurting. We can strengthen our relationships with friends and loved ones because we're reaching out to them and say, look, I need some help right now. I need some support right now. And there's lots of people who love you, people who care about you, will gladly. And I know I speak for Ann, Lori, and myself. We will gladly support you. We will gladly help you. We will gladly, if either of our stories, any of our stories ever resonate with you and you want to reach out and have that personal conversation, please, we welcome that. We want to be a support for you. We want to be a sounding board for you. And if we can help you in any way, we would gladly do so.
100%. And I wanted to, very quickly, I knew I was doing better when my mom died in 2022. So the boys died in 2013 and my mom died in 2022. And I didn't have that same need to avoid it still hurt. It still sucked. You don't want to be, I felt young to not have parents, but my tools worked. The tools I had implemented, they worked. It didn't take all the pain away. It didn't take all the sadness. I still miss my mom all the time, but I wasn't doing the same things. So when you learn to delay that gratification and learn to sit in your feelings, because you're going to have that opportunity to be presented with a situation that you're going to get to deal with it the exact same way, which is avoidance, or you're going to have implemented these tools and you're going to get to put them in practice. So it was a nice test that's a terrible way to say it, but it tested how am I doing? And I was certainly much better than 9 years before.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. So listeners, we hope you found today's episode what's the word I want to say? Beneficial, and that we gave you some little nuggets that you can work on about really evaluating those dopamine hits that you're looking for, and what's your why behind them. What's the motivation, and really look inward to say, am I avoiding something? Am I running from something? And then, like I say, reach out, because we definitely would love to hear from you.
We would. And next week, we have a special guest. So we are finally to the point in the podcast where we're going to once a month have special guests. So that will be next Thursday. So tune in and we'll have more stuff coming out about that over the next week. But we look forward to seeing y'all next Thursday as well.
Definitely. Yes, you are not going to want to miss. Our guest next week is a rock star. She's a naturopathic wellness and coach, and she has so much goodness. You are not going to want to miss it. So until next time, this is the Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast.
Bye.
Bye.